So I just saw a post that really, I was actually going to go to bed and I'm just going to do a quick live. I always say that, but this time I mean it. I'm going to do a quick live. I actually don't care if I'm talking to 0 people. Here's why. So when you're a spiritual starseed and you've been blessed with beauty, right? Beauty or handsome, good looks, beautiful looks, whether you're a man or a woman, and you're spiritually aware and awake. I don't know what it is, but there is a light that emanates from you. And people want to subjugate it in some aspects. So if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you're going to have people try to sexualize you, to denigrate you, to rip your power out of you. This is also, by the way, not just a woman's issue. It's a man's issue. Men get sexually harassed by women as well. Let's not forget. But I would say that for a man to be sexually harassed by a woman, okay, it's usually a beautiful man. I'm not going to lie. Whereas a woman, she can be cute, she can be pretty, she can be beautiful, she can be whatever. So more likely a woman's going to get advances. But if you're not a beautiful man, okay, then most likely you're not going to be harassed by a woman. And what I mean by harass is the same games, the hand on the thigh, the leaning in, the, kind of getting a little too close, saying very vile things or very direct things. Or I could tell you stories, okay, of men that look like have a Sean Connery vibe, beautiful men that look like I don't know what, just beautiful men. Just I'm not going to come up with stars because I'm tired of giving celebrities a connection to anything anymore. I'm going to try to stay away from that. But I know my husband was telling me stuff that was happening to him that was so fucking weird. And he was a good man, and he definitely was not into that. I know my brother went through that as a teenage boy. Grown women that should have known better, okay? But I also went through this as a woman where I had to quit a job because it was so outrageous. So just like in life, you practice what you're going to say for a job interview, you're going to practice what you're going to say for asking for a raise. You're going to practice what you're going to say when you're going to break up with someone or end a friendship, right? There's practice, right? There's also practice for self-defense, right? But it's interesting how we don't practice for emotional self-defense. And emotional self-defense is when a situation like that happens, whether you're a very young, beautiful person, okay, or a person in their 20s and 30s and 40s, where somebody approaches you. I can't tell you how many times we had shit happening, me and my husband. I remember we were like 21 and we were in the Bahamas and we were gorgeous. We were young, we were beautiful, we were making love, we were gorgeous, okay? And I remember this older couple, twice our age, coming up to us asking us to, you know what, okay? And the shock in our faces, the deer in the headlights, like we looked at each other like, wait, hang on, what did they just say to us? What did they just offer us? And thank God, because I've always been kind of like irreverent. My husband was much more classy and in terms of quiet and sweet and loving and polite. He's a polite young man. I went, no, hell no, like that. And that was that. They were like, oh, we didn't mean to offend you. It's like blah, blah, blah. It's like, people will come into your space constantly. So what I'm going to suggest that you do, ladies and gentlemen, you who are blessed with beauty and you who are probably spiritually in your light, and so you're glowing. So not only are you beautiful physically, but you're glowing from within. So that's making you more attractive because people want a piece of that. Oh my God, look at that person. I want a piece of that action because they look so happy and so grounded and so beautiful. I want a piece of that. And everyone sexualizes things like that. It's so weird. Andromeda Flame and I had a live today about and how sexuality has been, again, bastardized. So everything is sexualized. Instead of seeing something like I wouldn't sexualize a tree, nor would I sexualize a butterfly, but there you go, Nor do I sexualize a human being that is attractive and they have a glow within and so forth. But most average people who are very low consciousness do. So I would suggest that you start practicing, as you would practice anything else. What would you say if a woman or a man, I don't care what gender you are, made a pass at you but said things that made you very uncomfortable? Would and you were trying to pitch a deal, a meeting, a this or that, and they basically sexualized the meeting. The meeting went from being a business meeting where everything should be upfront and about, would you like to work with me? Would you like me to offer you consultation? To them making you an offer, a very, very vile offer. And then saying things that are very vulgar, rude, or making you uncomfortable. Start practicing what you would say. Start creating boundaries for yourself so that you can actually fucking walk. Start saying that. I remember one day playing backgammon on the beach in the Bahamas with one of my dad's business partners. And he made a comment to me about, I will tame you. I go, you're not taming anyone here. I'll tell you that. And he was like getting weirder and weirder. And finally I walked away. I told my mother, because I didn't want to tell my father, because I knew that guy probably wouldn't have his head on his shoulders. But my mom did go talk to him and it was handled. But from a very young age, I was able to advocate. Sometimes there were moments, I have to admit, where I had deer in the headlights. I was so shocked by the abruptness and vulgarity that I literally froze. But then, to be fair, I was young. But then I started practicing what I said in my early 20s. When you're young, and when you're young, you're going to be beautiful anyway. You're going to be good looking, beautiful. You're going to be attractive. Youth is that gift, right? So you're going to get constant, nice, attention, and sometimes not quite honestly, absolutely not so nice. And so in my 20s, because I was in a committed relationship with my fiancé who became my husband, I made a commitment to be prepared so that I wouldn't put myself in a situation where I couldn't get out of it, right? Where I would have to involve my husband. And so I started coming up with things that I would say. And to be honest with you, I matched rudeness with rudeness. So if somebody came up and said something that was very vulgar, I would respond back very vulgar. So they would get that they better back off. So it's something that you may want to practice, because just like you go for self-defense and you practice doing this move and that move until you're comfortable with it, until hopefully it becomes an instinct so it could possibly save your life and your dignity and your health, okay? So with the same kind of intention, not to create negativity in your life, but let's be real. You don't want to be a deer in the headlights in any situation. And I just read, you may actually see this on your feed. This girl had her head down and did not know what to say. And the man continued being vulgar to her. And she didn't know what to say. And the sad part, and this is the part that had me go on this live, I'm not going to tag her. I'm not going to do any of that because it's not what I do. I'm not here to humiliate anyone, but she did put it out to ask people what she thought, what we thought she should do. And my answer to her is practice what you would say in that situation. No money, no amount of money, no amount of, well, what if I'm polite? Maybe they will change their tune. If a person comes at you like that, there is no deal. There is no integrity. There is no moral values. The person has decided that this is what you are, a piece of meat to them for that moment. Again, it happens to men as well, not just women. And do not bite your tongue. Do not. Because you're not getting what you want out of this meeting. If this was a meeting or a job interview or a situation, say what you say. And make sure that you have a couple answers that you've practiced, in your own head, you've written it out, because it's important. It's important for your own emotional safety, because self-loathing, because I saw this woman then write, I've been going over what I should have done, what I should have said, what I could have done, and this and that. And so I could see the self-loathing running, and she was rolling in the mud of self-loathing and regret and self-recrimination. Can you imagine? She didn't do anything wrong. That man did something wrong. Very, very bad. Again, it happens to men as well. So practice Practice what you're going to say in that situation. Be decisive, be brutally honest, be as vulgar as they are, and get the fuck out of that situation. That's it. Just walk. That's it. If it's a date, never go on a date in their ride. Never. Not on a third date, not on the fourth. Not until you've established a commitment in your and I know a lot of you are going to say, well, you know, I want to feel like a woman. I want to feel like treated. No. You establish trust, and trust is earned in these situations. Trust is earned. Now, I've said to you before in other lives that I give people trust ahead of time. Yeah, but not on dates, not on a dating situation. On a dating, not that I'm dating, by the way, on the side note, but if you are dating, always drive your own car or get your own Uber. Always make sure you have what they call mad money, which means money to get in an Uber and go home on the spot. That means if you're on a date in a restaurant and the date is acting stupid, then walk, you know? And if you feel uncomfortable, go to, if it's a nice restaurant, go to the Metro D, go to the head waiter or waitress, and make sure they call an Uber and you're escorted to your Uber. Never have anyone pick you up at your house until you've established a long-term connection with someone and you trust them. Okay? But in terms of practicing what you're going to say, this is something that mothers and fathers should teach their daughters and sons. Don't start acting like this shit's not happening to 14, 15, 16-year-old girls and boys. It's happening. And so what you want to do is make sure that you make these young people, and it happens in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, and fuck, even in your 50s, depending on how, you know, your situation, believe it or not. So, but you want to make sure that you teach yourself and you teach those you love who are young and innocent how to advocate for themselves and to feel comfortable in saying no in a very decisive way and literally remove themselves from that situation. So no more harmful words, no more vulgarity are showered upon them, so that they later on, because they're going through a deer in the headlights, because they were never taught, they never practice if you're an adult, but they never were taught if they're young what to do. And it is our responsibility to teach our young people and ourselves how to advocate for ourselves so that we don't sit and ruminate over what I will call verbal abuse. Because no matter what it is, it was verbal abuse. That was abusive. And there are men and women who feel very comfortable, and because they have money or because they have power in some sense, to actually do that to another human being. There are people who think that they're entitled to it, that what they're offering is should be accepted. That's the one that kills me. Like you should jump on this offer, this vulgar offer. It's kind of funny to me, but it's not funny to someone who's going through, who's never practiced. Does anybody have any comments or questions on that? Does anybody have any comments or questions on that particular thing? Immediately left the room. Good for you, Kelly Heels. Makes me feel ill this has happened. Absolutely. It happens to a lot of people. A lot of people. I remember my husband telling me some things. I couldn't fucking believe it. Okay? And you're not going to save it. You're not going to save the situation. I remember I was in a situation where I worked at a very high-paying job. I was in my 20s. It was the most money I'd ever made. And the boss, the owner of the company, just kept going, making all kinds of very crazy, vulgar, comments about my body and so on. My lingerie, how the fuck, anyway, that's another show. Like, I didn't even know how he could, But anyway, and I remember wearing sack dresses. And after a month of wearing sack dresses, because I was telling my husband, who was, at the time he was my fiance, we're engaged, and he wanted to kick. Once I realized that it was going to get to a violent place because my husband was not going to take it, I gave my 2 weeks notice. Again, in the 80s, there was no such thing as sexual harassment case. Good luck on that one. That was not happening. And I quit the job. I had to leave the job because it was going to put my fiance, my future husband, in a massive situation where he could have gotten arrested because he was going to beat the shit out of that guy, period, okay? And rightly so. To be honest, rightly so. So what's shocking me today with everything that we've been going through in the movement of being consciously aware of, you would think these people would have been put on notice not to pull this shit again. But apparently I guess because I'm out of the loop, right? I'm a lone wolf. I do my own thing. I'm older. I'm an elder, if you want to, So I'm not bothered, thank God. But to be honest with you, I didn't realize people were still that disgusting, but yet they are. So practice. Practice with your partner, your spouse, because if you're a beautiful couple, you're going to have some weird fucking offers coming at you. You're going to go, where the fuck? Like, wait, hang on. Is there a brand on my forehead that says that I'm a hedonistic whatever? I mean, I'm in love with my husband, thank you, or my fiance or my lover or whatever. It's weird. Okay. It's weird how people think it's okay. They think you're a TV set or, I don't know, a puppet. I don't know what people are thinking. It's so weird to me. It's like, read the fucking room. Do they look like they would be? People don't know how to read people. They really don't. And they'll come up to people who clearly are in love with each other and pull shit out of, I don't know. So anyway, any questions or comments? I'm just curious to see if anyone wants to share anything that's happened to them and how they handled it. I'm more interested in how they handled it. No, I just saw a post on a woman who was making a presentation to a businessman in his 50s who owns a building, has a $250,000 car. He's in his 50s, and she was making a presentation, and good-looking girl. And he said to her, slammed her computer shut and said, I will can you imagine, Venmo you $2,000. Now, 2,000? I would have looked at him and said, how about 200,000? Then we can have a conversation. You stupid. I mean, that's me though, there are people that will say things that are just outrageous. And the sad part about this young woman who's trying to, she wants her business to thrive, obviously, right? And she wanted to offer her consulting services, whatever the hell she was offering. I don't know, to be honest. But I can tell you that she didn't know what to say. She was actually trying to save the deal, which was very naive of her. She didn't know what to say, and she actually didn't want to be rude. It's kind of like being physically attacked and afraid of harming your attacker. What do they teach you in self-defense? Fucking do everything you can, and you never go to a second location, right? Okay, with a situation where it's verbal abuse, where you're basically being emotionally attacked. This is an attack, right? Because you're coming in with this premise, you're dressed as a business person, and you're going into this job interview or to this meeting or where you're promoting your business. And depending, it could be a male, it could be a female. Don't get it twisted as you think it's only men to do this, because women do it too. Okay, and suddenly you're being sexually harassed. That's basically what happened, and she didn't know what to say because she didn't want to be rude. That's what kills me. She did not want to be rude to him, even though and she said that, even though he kept going. So what I do know in the deer in the headlights problem that we all have, right, at some point, is that you have to practice. That's not being negative. That's being prepared. You would prepare for a job interview. Where do you want to be in 5 years? You don't want to be there in 5 years. You hope to God that you'll have your own business. You'll be thriving. You'll be pregnant. You'll be married. You'll be in another country. I don't know, whatever. But these companies want you to tell them that you want to be here in 5 years, okay? And it's a lie. So it's a practice lie, right? So the same way you lie about certain questions in a job interview, you should, and you practice this bullshit for a fucking job, make sure that you practice things that will keep you emotionally healthy. Because the end result of her having a deer in the headlights frozen moment that lasted, I guess, 10, 15 minutes, is that after she finally left, right? Because he made an offer of, I want to be your sugar daddy, whatever. And she didn't want to do it, obviously. She's still ruminating, and she feels like shit. It made her feel like shit. And unfortunately, it wasn't a feeling like shit for 10 minutes. She's still feeling like shit a day later. This may last her a week. This will fuck her up in the head for a week. Because now she's berating herself for not having reacted. So when I tell you to prepare, it means having one-liners. Just have one-liners. Get prepared to walk. If you're on a date, like I remember I had a girlfriend who was on a date with a guy, and he kept flirting with the waitress. And I said, did you think of maybe just paying your part of the food and just leaving? She goes, no, I didn't know what to do. I go, sweetie pie, You're not going to win. If the guy's flirting with the waitress, for example, and not giving his attention to you, you've already lost the game. There's no game to win. Leave. So in the same premise, if you're having a situation where someone who you did not date, you're meeting to do whatever it is, a meeting for a business, for an investment, for a loan, for whatever it is, and they come at you like that, you're not going to win. They've already established the ground rules, which is that what they want is what you can't give and you'll never give. Not for money, not for free, not for a favor, nothing. It's not going to happen. It's a Weinstein moment, okay? So the best thing you can do is leave, because you can't win it unless you capitulate to what they want. And still, this will harm your soul. It will harm your sense of autonomy, of self-respect. And it's not worth it. It's one thing if you have an agenda to have a meeting with someone and plan B is to do that. That's not, in that case, what I'm saying is not for you, okay? Because there are women and men like that, where they'll go, if I can get this meeting with this person, what I really want is, an arrangement where they take care of me financially. That's really what I want. But we'll see how it goes. And there are people like that. And I don't judge that. I really don't care. This is for people who don't have that agenda, who really want an investor or whatever. And because they're beautiful and because they're attractive or sensuous or sexy, male or female, they come into a position and they don't know what to say. And they're afraid to blow up. And they're afraid to make waves. And they're afraid to lose face. And they're afraid to be looked at a certain way. The worst thing you can do is cater to someone else who you really don't know, and not cater to your needs and to little girl or little boy in you. Always think to yourself, if this was happening to my daughter or my son, you would rip their head off, right? You would go off. You would fucking walk. Then remember that and advocate for yourself as if you're advocating for your own inner child, because in a sense, that's exactly what you're doing. So I hope that explains it. Any questions on that? And it does happen to men. My husband went through it. Believe it or not, my father's gone through it. My son's gone through it. Men go through that, okay? Women can be intense as well, okay? So let me look at basic instincts, Obsession is obsession. It comes in many forms. And it's weird, too, because you would think that people would read people better. If there's eye glance and flirting and this and that, that's a whole different game. I'm not talking about that. I'm not at all. I'm talking about you're straight up straight. You're not putting out any signal. You're smiling out of politeness, and they're not reading you right. And then instead of seeing that you're ashamed, you're bowing your head like this girl was bowing her head. She wasn't even looking at the guy at that point. And he literally went to the bathroom expecting that she was going to capitulate to his disgusting, vulgar offerings, And what made me sad and made me do this live for you guys, and hopefully you'll share it with other people who need to hear that. And I will upload this to YouTube because people need to understand. It shocks me how people just, it's a skill set to think on your feet. It really is, actually. And that's a moment of thinking on your feet and going, yeah, you're done. You're fucking done. Thank you. Throwing your laptop in your briefcase or whatever, your resume, and walking without a backwards glance. You're done. It's not happening. And there are a lot of reasons why people do it. They sit there taking that kind of abuse because they've got rent to pay. They've been unemployed for 3 months. There's no deal here. There's only abuse. So make sure you protect yourself, okay? Let me see here. What do you guys? I agree. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad you agree. And again, to repeat myself, it happens to men as well. You'd be surprised how a lot of what we're going through, and it happens to men who are straight with gay men. I'm just saying, and vice versa. Straight women with gay women, and heterosexual situations. It happens in all forms of fuckery. Okay, it's not just it's not a particular one-up or one-off situation. It happens in all kinds of situations, and people are just very comfortable in being rude. I remember once and this is totally not about sexual harassment, though I've had a lot of that happening. And you all have. You all have had a situation. I'm sure of it. There's no way you haven't. Okay. But I remember in one situation, my father was throwing a dinner party. And because I was young and I was with my fiance, again, we were like, how old was I? I think I was 20, and we were both the same age, 20 and a half. And this businessman, these people, in their 50s and 60s think they can manipulate people that are young, okay? So this man came up to me. Well, he was sitting next to me at the dinner party. It was a long, long table. And I think there was like 20 people, or almost, it was a full table of a lot of people. And my fiance at the time, was sitting on one side, and this man was sitting on my other side. But he had come up to me previously and said, I'd like to talk to you and find out more about your father, blah, blah, blah. And he asked me the question, well, how can your father, finally at the dinner party, how can your father afford all of this? And I said, the host that's paying your meal is sitting right over there. Why don't you ask him yourself? It's like the rudeness of people who should know better, who try to manipulate young people into saying something or slipping up, or it's weird. Some of them. So I grew up with a lot of this weird manipulation that goes on in business worlds and so forth, that then is entangled with sexual desire. I could tell you more stories, but I'm not going. I know you have stories to share, so let me see what you guys have to share. Let's see if there's, or what you did or what you said to get out of that. Good morning, my love. Very important subject. It is important because, unfortunately, beauty, good looks, handsome, because there are men that are beautiful, right? Beauty should not be a chore. Okay? Like when I told you that I had to wear a sack dress for about a month to keep this guy off my ass. I was like, how old was I then? I think I was like 24, 25 years old. That's bullshit. You shouldn't have to downgrade your looks to make someone not harass you on any level, okay? That should not be happening. If you want to wear a tight ass, hourglass type of dress, it's your fucking business, okay? That doesn't mean you're asking for action. If you're a good-looking man and you're fit and you've got beautiful body, beautiful face, or whatever, you're handsome or you're sensual or whatever, and you're fit, I don't care what age you are, you shouldn't have women, older women, or young women, if you're married, you shouldn't be sexually harassed by women. That should be a no. That should be a fucking no. If you see a ring on someone's finger, women or men, it should be a no. If you see a wedding band, it's a no. It's a no. And it's a no because it is none of your business to try to take someone away from someone else as a flex. When I used to work for this company, doing what I call street tarot, I would have a lot of girls calling me. I'm just going to put, because I don't want, this is human rights time. This is human moral values time. This is not gender bashing time, okay? This is truth. So I'm going to give you this particular story, but I can't tell you how often this was happening. So I had this girl who called me and said, well, I know he's married, and I know, but he's hot, and I just want to have sex. I just want to have fun with him. And I'm like, you realize he's married, right? And she goes, yeah, well, it's just for fun. I don't care. I mean, whatever. And I was like, so he's not flirting with you. You're not getting messages to and she was just outright fucking going after him. Another time I had, I was actually in a ayahuasca retreat, and we were doing the grandfather on this particular day. And all of us were dressed, in the right way, meaning, we weren't, it's not Burning Man, it's fucking a retreat for spiritual awakening and self-realization. But there was a couple that was really beautiful. It was there was a lot of couples. It was a co-ed that I had done. So there was, and I was one of the single women there, amongst other people as well. But there were also a lot of couples, and they were so in love with each other. And this particular couple was super, super cute. And this chick decided that she would sit behind them, follow them, and kind of show off her bosom to the guy. And the guy was so fucking uncomfortable. He didn't know what to say. And the girl, his partner, his beautiful, loving wife, didn't know what to say. She was uncomfortable too. And she didn't know what to say. And finally, my shaman, an elder like myself, must have said something to someone else, because by the time we came back from lunch, the girl with the bosom and all of that going around like it was Burning Man. Again, like read the room, dress according to the area you're at. You know what I mean? And don't follow couples that are in love and try to throw your shit into that. Don't try to separate people. You will never find love if you do that shit. I'll tell you that straight up. You'll hear articles from Cosmopolitan in the 70s of women always hanging out and being with married men and vice versa and never finding the love of their life because they're constantly being the side chick or the side guy. It never works out karmically. It just doesn't. You'll never. You're telling the universe that you want secondhand goods. Just on the side note. But anyway, when we came out of our lunch and whatever, we were hanging out. I went, whoa. Somebody said something to her because look at the shawl. It's completely covering her up. And she was also told, stay the fuck away from that couple. So good facilitators, good shamans, good, because that shit does happen in those. Don't think that because you're going to yoga retreat, everyone has moral values, okay? Don't think that. That shit's going to happen. But to be honest with you, it would have been a bad idea for the guy, and again, he was afraid. He's in his like late 20s. His wife is in her mid 20s. Both of them don't want to make a scene. They don't want to look like assholes. But it wouldn't be a bad idea for him to have turned around as the man being, sexually harassed. I'm going to call it that, and say, "I'm in love with my wife. Can you please give us space, like 30 feet?" That would have been a good thing to say. She would have turned red. She would have felt like an asshole, rightly so, and left them for the whole entire retreat. Don't be afraid of offending people who are making you uncomfortable. Do not. If you're being flirted, then it's your job to say something to the person flirting with you while you're with your beloved, and vice versa. Be prepared to say something. You don't have to start a scene. You don't have to go insane. I'm going to tell you a funny story, though. It'll make you laugh, but in a way you'll be in shock. And you'll say, oh, she's got no, she has, you're going to say something like, because it's pretty intense. You're going to say, well, she has no self-respect and she has no, she doesn't believe in her beauty. There was a girl who was Persian in San Francisco. She was famous for her beauty. I'm not joking. People knew the girl on Union Street. They all knew her. And her fiancé, who was Persian, also a very rich family, they were engaged to be married, and they owned this very well-to-do store, clothing store. It was a high fashion store. Anyway, she had a Bulgari ring, and Bulgari rings, even in those days, was like worth $6,000 to $7,000. She went to a nightclub with her beloved. They were going to be married in 6 months. Gorgeous girl. I could describe her, but that's not the point. Just whatever you visualize, you're probably on the mark. And some girl had the boldness to, while she went to the bathroom to powder her nose, had the boldness to actually get and sit on her fiancé's lap. When she came out of the bathroom, I'm telling you, it makes me laugh, but it's not funny, actually. She did cause a scene. She grabbed her by their hair and dragged her across the club. They were thrown out, all of them, obviously, because it was violent. But they had a massive fight, and she took off the engagement ring and threw it down the hill. They never found the fucking ring. They ended up getting married. It doesn't matter how beautiful you are. It doesn't matter. There will always be someone who will try to fuck up what you have with somebody you love. And it doesn't matter how beautiful you are. You're going to get triggered. It's nothing to be ashamed of. The way this girl did it was so intense. It became legend. Okay, I'm not joking. But definitely that's not what you want to do. There are better ways to handle this kind of business. But the reason why I'm telling you that is because she was considered one of the most beautiful girls, probably the top 1 or 2 beautiful girls in San Francisco in the 1980s, just so you know. And she fucking lost her shit. So I don't want you to feel bad, but I want you to be prepared. And I want you to have as much elegance in it. But you have to match vulgarity with vulgarity, which means if somebody says something rude that's vulgar, you got to be prepared to be as blunt as they are in telling them to back off. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing that, if anything makes you uncomfortable, then I want you to have at least 5 repartees, five answers that you've already worked out that are very clever. Play around with your girlfriends, play around with your guy friends, what you would say, and then say it. Because I can tell you that when my brother was very young, he was like 6'4" at 18. He was being massively, you wouldn't believe the shit he would tell me. And I would say to him, well, what are you saying? He goes, well, in the beginning, I didn't know what to say. I was like fucking frozen. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know. I couldn't even move out of, So try to prepare, because it's going to happen. And teach your kids to do it. Let me see. I'm going to read your comments because it's really interesting. Let me see here. Let me see. Okay, great. So I'm going to go down to that. Listen to this. I wear a ring that looks like an engagement ring as a deterrent. It doesn't always work. No, actually, sometimes the engagement ring and a wedding band on a man is actually a turn on. It's a flex. It's like, whoa, game on. I'm gonna go get that guy, right? So it's a real thing. Let me see. Not being afraid to offend people who make you uncomfortable is something I'm working on. It's very important that you practice, what you're going to say ahead of time. And then because what the damage isn't what you're going to say to someone. The damage is you going home and you kicking yourself all night long, tossing, turning, not sleeping, because you feel like a complete idiot that you didn't say anything, you didn't protect yourself, and you're really, berating yourself, and you're so angry at yourself because suddenly now all the repertoires are coming in your head, and so it's better not to go through that. Are you going to regret saying something to someone? Maybe the first time you may be shocked at your boldness, and you might actually backpedal on it. Don't backpedal on it. Do not call someone who's like someone like me, someone who will say, "Girl, fuck yeah," tell him, or a guy friend, whatever. But make sure that you practice, because I can tell you, I'm trying to remember some other things that happened that were insane. Like, I remember I had a girlfriend of mine who absolutely in the Bahamas, who was absolutely, I'm not kidding. She was half Hindu, half Caucasian, and she was stunning. And we were both teenagers, and the shit that she was fucking dealing with, it was so bad. She would have to wear her bikini and a t-shirt to swim. That's how bad it was. That's how ridiculous it was. It was ridiculous. So that she could just be in peace. And I remember wearing a sarong. So, again, remember it was the 80s. But when any human being is making a person feel like they have to cover up to feel safe, I mean, fuck, we're swimming and she's wearing a t-shirt, I'm wearing a sarong. Hello, what's up with that? But again, as you get older, you start realizing that is not going to continue, and it will give you a sense of being uncomfortable. Like to have a beautiful body is not a safe thing to have. And some people, will develop weight problems, believe it or not, to hide, to soften, to not be as beautiful, to be pretty now. Oh, you could be so pretty if you lost weight, that kind of thing. It's because people don't feel safe, okay? And it does happen. It happens a lot more, unfortunately, than it should. So if you are parents of teenage boys and girls, teach them that it's okay to do that, and you will fucking back them 100%. That's going to be very important. Don't think that in high school teachers aren't doing some weird ass shit that's nefarious, okay, on the side note. Just don't think it's not happening. It is. It was happening with me when I was going to junior high and high school, and it's still happening. So teach your kids how to advocate young, so by the time they're in their 20s, they can be in their full power, and they don't give a fuck who they offend. If you offend me, you're going to get offended, and I will embarrass you in public. That should be allowed and supported by parents, number one. Okay, over respecting your elders. That should be an earned thing, not a given. Okay, so as parents, we owe it to our young, people to feel safe that we will back them. Okay, in any situation, and that we trust them. That if they say something was nefarious, wrong, fucking vulgar, uncomfortable, that they're not lying. That's why some of these sport coaches and coaches have gotten away with so much shit. because kids were never taught that. Does that make sense? That's why you have that gym coach. What was it? No, I'm sorry. He was something else. I forgot what he was. A doctor who was able to do what he did with 170, over 170 gymnasts, or am I correct? I think it was gymnasts. And it was a major case like in 2018. I don't know if you guys remember that. That should have never fucking happened. That's way too many. I could see maybe 10, but 170, I think it was like 200 chicks total. And when I mean chicks, I mean teenage girls, okay? That's insane shit. And parents were not keeping their daughters safe. Straight up. That should have never happened. Not to that level and for so long. And so it's because we talk about it after the fact, not before. And in preparing any child to grow up into teenage years, into young adulthood and so forth, it needs to be taught before any shit goes down. I'm sorry. However, for you who are adults, young adults, older, middle age, some of you are learning how to say no in your 40s. Don't be ashamed. Saying no is a hard thing. Saying no is a very hard thing. It takes a lot of courage. And so you have to retrain yourself completely to feel comfortable in advocating. I bet you some of you who can't advocate for yourself are fucking good. In fact, great at advocating for other people. I bet many of you are. Let me see what else. Let me see what else you guys are. There's a similar narrative with guys getting mad at women who wear workout clothes in the gym. Well, you know, the gym, I'm just going to be blunt, okay? I'm just going to be really blunt. And you might, when you go to the gym, ask yourself, am I working out to sweat like a pig, to lift weights, to be there for 2 hours, and to sweat? And if the answer is yes, then great. Because I've seen girls go to the gym, and this goes all the way back to the 70s, who, I just didn't sweat. No shit, honey, you're not fucking working out. You're here to pick up guys. I mean, let's be honest, okay? Because I see girls with full-on makeup, false eyelash at the gym. Come on, hello, okay? So for some people, it is a pickup joint, okay? And that's the energy. Personally, me, I don't give a fuck who wears what. Just stay out. Just please, just can I have that? How many sets do you have before I can get that fucking machine because you're on your fucking phone? You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing for me. My concern isn't what you're wearing on a side note, but can I get on that leg press? Or are you going to keep doing selfies? See, and I will go up to people, men or women, who do that, and I'll go, this is when I was going to the gym like, an animal, and I'd say, how long are you going to do? Are you doing selfies or are you doing leg presses? Just asking. And so I'm kind of bold like that, and I've always been like that for quite some time, for a few decades. But at the end of the day, it's none of our business what women wear at the gym, honestly. I mean, I'm here to work out. I don't look at anybody, to be honest. Even if there's a good-looking guy, and, I'm in union with my twin, but, eye candy is eye candy. But when I'm at the gym, I focus on myself. And I'm really not concerned, nor will I talk shit about anyone at the gym. I'm not there to entertain anyone, nor do I want to be stared at. So usually I wear pretty crappy clothes, a baseball cap, and I'm good. And I've got my my music on or whatever, and I'm focused on bettering myself. And so that's never a concern for me. What my concern is, are you plugging up the machine? That's when I get concerned and annoyed. That's about it. That's the only time I get annoyed. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yes, exactly. There's and I get concerned also when men, because I've had that happen a couple times, and for some reason think that because I'm my age now, and to be honest with you, when I was lifting weights as a kid, they were doing that too, where a man will try to I don't know, think that my sets aren't as valuable as his sets. So I get a little pissed off and they get the look. I remember once boxing. I hadn't boxed in a while. This was right on the heels of COVID. And so I was boxing, right? And this man decided to come in. And by the way, just so you know, I've been taught boxing by my twin who was a boxer. For real. He boxed, he was a semi-pro. So, and I knew Muhammad Ali. So my dad used to go to the gym and watch Muhammad Ali. So I've been about boxing since I was a kid. So here's this guy who really probably doesn't even know my background, right? And I've been trained by featherweight coaches and stuff like that in New York and so forth. Anyway, so the guy comes up and decides to mansplain me on boxing. And, I just enjoyed myself. Meaning, I just watched him just do all these turns. And finally I said, thank you. Yeah, I understand. And finally I said, but you know what? I really need to finish my sets. And if you could be so kind, when you see me done, I'll let you know, I'll nod to you or I'll wave to you so that I'm done with the bag. But yeah, have a good day. I didn't want to be rude to him because there was no point in being rude to him. He wasn't being rude to me. But I did let him know my boundaries. I didn't explain myself. I didn't tell him my background. I didn't give a shit. But had he been rude, vulgar, whatever, yeah, he would have gotten the full Monty, if you will. But there was no point in that. But I still kind of politely moved him, shoved him out of the way, and basically continued with my rounds. And that was it. So you got to be on the mansplaining. Yeah, it's very annoying. I love boxing. I was taught by my granddad, who was a professional boxer. Oh my God, that's so insane. That's insane. I actually have these little miniature boxing gloves that say Muhammad Ali on it that my dad got from, because I guess they were promoting and giving out these little boxing gloves. So boxing, it's been around me in the periphery of my life for a long, long time. It's kind of wild. But anyway, so that's not here or there. But at the gym, if I was, no matter how good you look, right? All the ones that are really professional bodybuilders, all the gorgeous girls that really are for real, I've noticed there is a pattern. They don't dress up in little outfits. They got their leggings. They're wearing torn midriffs. Sometimes they're wearing a t-shirt and or a hoodie. Some of them are wearing hoodies because they really want to sweat. And the ones that have fucking slamming legs and slamming bodies usually don't fucking show. I'm going to be blunt. They don't show off. They fucking there to work out. And they usually have a baseball cap. Most of them have a baseball cap. They don't want to be bothered. They're focusing on their workouts. They're focusing on improving their body even more. They're sculpting their bodies. The ones that do what they do usually is for videos and for they're creating content for people like you watching on YouTube. So every blue moon you'll see somebody walking in with the cute outfit. Well, they're supposed to. They're fucking trying to make it appealing to you to watch and to be inspired by their beautiful bodies. So that's one thing. But the ones that are really working out and they're not trying to create content, I've noticed there's a pattern where they all wear their crappy clothes because they're not here to pick up a man, pick up attention, pick up any. They're just here to focus on their workout for maybe the 2 hours they're at the gym in that morning. And typically also the ones that are very serious are there at around 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. I've noticed that too. Because they don't want to be around people who aren't serious. That's the other thing. And there's a gym etiquette that you'll see at 5, 6, 7:30 in the morning that you'll never see in the afternoon. People, it's like suddenly they lose their mind. They don't know how to act with machines, or they'll sit there for fucking spinning through their phone again, which that's the only thing that really annoys me typically. But in terms of speaking your truth to people, okay, who come at you, who make their stupid comments or sexual comments, whether it's a man or a woman. Again, my brother went through it. My son has gone through it, still goes through it because he's a young man. He's still being, harassed sometimes. And he's got my same type of attitude with people. So he's very abrupt when he's with somebody, when he's in a committed relationship of some kind. He doesn't make eye contact with women. He doesn't flirt with women. I've seen him in action, and I was shocked. One day I put him aside and said, I've noticed that you're not flirting. He goes, why would I flirt? I have a girlfriend. I go, good point. You realize men your age and 3 times your age don't do that. He goes, yeah, I know, but that's not my story. That's their story. So integrity, discipline, moral values isn't something that's convenient. It's not something you pull out when you want. It's something that is part of who you are as a human being. It is an effort. It's effortless. It's just how you roll. It's how you move through life. And the people who are, making these weird you know, they're offering you some strange offerings that are really inappropriate, and definitely you didn't warrant that. You know, smiling doesn't make you a target for sexual harassment, that's for sure. Smiling should be your right. You know, you're being polite. And so people need to learn, you know, how to read people, you know. And when somebody's interested in just casual sex, believe me, you should be able to read that. It should be quite obvious by their body language, by the way they're looking at you, by the way they're inferring whatever, you know, by look, gaze, winks, whatever. You know, you should be able to tell. You should be able to also tell when someone's completely innocent, completely not interested. You should be able to tell. And if you don't know how to tell the difference, whoever you are that's listening, that maybe that's triggering you, then you need to learn how to tell. But I can tell you that I'm putting all of you on notice that you need to give yourself the ability and the right to practice your repartees, your response. Have at least 5 or 6 response in the back pocket and immediately shoot it out of your mouth, and don't fucking look back. Okay? Don't, because the last thing I want you guys to do is regret. Oh my God, I should have said this. Oh my God, I let them get away with that. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. I feel like shit. Oh my God. No, that's not where you want to go with that moment. You want to just cut it at the pass and cut it at the head and whatever. Do you have any questions? Not questions, but I'd love to share any of your experiences. Any of your experiences? Because the deer in the headlight, I'll tell you a story that happened to me when I was in Malibu. I was 14 years old. I came out of the ocean, and there was a famous actor that came up to me and said, "Hey, you want to come out? You want to go to my house?" And I went, "I'm 14." He goes, "And?" "That's okay." And I went, I ran to my mother, and I was shaking. I didn't even tell my mother because I was so ashamed. And I didn't have that kind of relationship with my mother to tell her. See, you want to develop a relationship with your kids so they would tell you immediately that this happened. You understand? And unfortunately, I ruminated over that I was like trying to figure out what I had done to elicit that kind of action from a grown-ass man that was definitely in his mid-40s. And this happened a lot in my teenage year. I couldn't tell you how many times. And so what happens is I developed the repartees as I breached into 19 years old, 20 years old, and so forth. And then I met I met my twin when I was 18. And I became a little, streetwise, unfortunately, a little too hard for my age, because I had to protect myself, because I didn't have the kind of I had a wonderful relationship with my parents on some aspects, but not in that aspect where I could tell them, this just happened, what should I have done, right? Or what would you suggest? Or, and I remember my brother going through similar shit, and he was telling me, and it was males going after him, believe it or not. And both of us were like deer in the headlights for like years, and ashamed. It created shame in us. And eventually by the time I was 19, 20, that shame fell away. But fuck, it did create something that wasn't healthy in our teenage years. In other words, we didn't feel safe. We were already going through bodily changes, hormonal changes, but we didn't feel safe in these changes. We didn't get to enjoy them like we should have, because of these weird, nefarious characters that had these weird, this weird idea that it was okay to talk to people that way. And I'm still shocked that with the Me Too movement, and the 4B movement, and I'm just still shocked people are still so fucked up as to do that to other people. It's weird to me. I have stopped going to the gym because of this. I'm going to go with my twin now. Good. Yeah, I wish I would have felt comfortable talking to my parents more. Yeah, it's absolute bullshit. It's one of the reasons why women, and I will say this, though, again, let me remind you, it happens to teenage boys as well, okay, just so you know. But it is one of the reasons why women can grow up very, very angry at men. because from a very young age, as their bodies were developing, they were getting a lot of action that was unwarranted, unwelcomed, and forced upon them. Okay? And there are two kinds of young teenage girls. One that will go in front of the construction workers to get all the attention and the hoopla, right? And those who cross the street and bow their head and almost walking sideways because they don't want to be seen or harassed, okay? So there's two kinds of consciousness. Some enjoy it and some abhor it. They can't stand they can't stand it. It makes them feel almost like, I got to take a shower. This was so nasty, right? Can anyone relate? It does happen to men. The stories my twin has told me is awful. Very awful. I remember my husband lost a job. We were both in our 30s. He was 30. He was a beautiful man. He was one of the most beautiful men I've ever seen. Okay? I was blessed. But he was massively sexually harassed. And he didn't tell me until years later, by the way. And he left the job. He was actually, it was almost like a collision course where they were going to, the boss was a woman. She was in her late 40s. And she was doing all kinds of weird shit. And he had to leave. And he was ashamed. He never, at the time, we just had a baby. We needed the money. So 9/11 had just happened. And he lost the job. He had to leave. And that put us in a financial bind like you wouldn't believe. But, he finally told me. And I said, why didn't you tell me? He goes, because I was afraid you'd be mad. Like, I brought that on me. And I go, why would I think that? Why would I think that you would have brought... So, the thing is, it was probably because when he was a teenage boy, being as beautiful, that he was being harassed by both men and women, by the way. And it might have been something that was installed in him. So at the age of 38, 39, he still felt that way. He still felt like he needed to somehow hide that from me for whatever reason. For whatever reason, when I was going through that, I would tell him. I would not, because I knew he had self-control and he wouldn't beat anyone up unless it continued, okay? But I was comfortable, but he was never really comfortable telling me. I've always wondered about that. But ultimately, as we got older and older, we started telling each other more and more about the things we had experienced as kids and so forth as we were growing up. And I was amazed at how much shit he went through. So I'm not surprised, Andromeda Flame, about your twin going through some massive shit. Yeah, of course. Of course. And I can tell you that it happened to my father. And with my father, because he was a good-looking man in his late 50s, and he had this very sensuous aspect about him, young women were throwing themselves in front of him. It was insane. In fact, it happened in front of me quite often. It was insane. I would watch it and go, what the fuck is this, right? I'm his daughter, right? So how do we navigate through that? Well, we create a better society that's conscious. We create a society of people who realize that sexuality is so sacrosanct, so beautiful between two people, that it's not something you throw in front of people to feel like you're valuable, like you're something, right? In terms of people trying to take your sexuality, like some people are apt to do, again, it's people like us saying, especially men, when you see a young teen, in fact, I've done this, where I saw a group of teenage girls walking by a construction site, and they were hooping. I mean, clearly they were teenage girls. And I remember turning to these guys at that point now, I'm in my mid-50s, and I went, what the fuck are you guys doing? What's wrong with you? Oh, you're an old woman, And I was like, bullshit, fuck off. But it would be nice if men actually stepped up and said it. It takes a lot, okay? When a man tells another man he's fucking up, men usually shut up and learn. When a woman tells another man you're fucking up, they totally disrespect it and think you're jealous, you're competing, you're all the bullshit, you're all of it has nothing to do with that. And so and vice versa. If you see an older woman flirting with a young, my God, he's old enough to be your grandson. What are you doing, or your son? You know, that's not, and it doesn't look like the feelings are reciprocated. I mean, so I know it's like, well, I don't put my nose in other people's business, but we need to start being kind and like protect people who can't protect themselves. Honestly, don't you think? I think it's our duty. That's my opinion, of course. And, you know, you don't want to start shit with anyone. But my twin is still being harassed at work. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. It's still going on. I don't know about what happens in your part of the world, Andromeda Flame. But I can tell you that sexual harassment, there was a movie, I believe, with Michael Douglas about him being sexual harassed at work. I think it was one of those breaking movies about sexual, where a man actually, it was Demi Moore, and she was being sued for sexually harassing a man. And everyone was laughing at him like he was a simp. And that shit happens. It happens a lot. It's our duty. I agree. It is our duty. We need to step up and protect, especially if it's a teenage boy or girl. We need to say something. We can't just, it doesn't matter if it's for a moment or whatever. It's going to be very helpful for them, because then they realize that it's okay to say no. And you say to them, next time this happens to you, I probably won't be there because I'm a stranger, but just know it's okay to say no. And not just no, hell no, fuck you. It's okay. In fact, do it. All right, any other questions? Disclosure is the movie. Yes, thank you. You remember that movie, Disclosure, with Demi Moore. That was a groundbreaking movie because it turned the tables, you know, on that conversation. Because for a long time we thought we were the only victims of that, but we don't. In fact, there's a very famous story. What is the story? I think it's in the Bible, where a woman comes to this man, right? It's in the Old Testament. And she says, if you don't make love to me, I will say that you attacked me, violated me. What was that? Some of you know the Bible better than me, clearly. But do you remember that story? So that shit happens to this day. So for us, we need to be a better society. And the way we're a better society is we protect those who can't yet protect themselves. They don't know what to say yet. Okay? Do you guys know what that movie was? I mean, not movie. What was that part in the Bible, the Old Testament, where she basically says, if you don't make love to me, I will lie and say that you have violated me. Do you guys remember that one? Hi, Mia. Anyway, I'm going to go because it's late. I know it's late and I have a lot to do tomorrow, as you probably all do. It's 12:25 my time. So I'm going to let you go. Any last comments? I'm so glad, Andromeda, you came on there. By the way, Andromeda and I had a wonderful live about Twin Flame Universe and Twin Ray in Ashland, Oregon, and the cult of the Twin Flames and the Twin Rays. We are Twin Flame. We are twins. I'm in with my twin. She's with her twin. And we both know it's real, just so you don't misunderstand what I'm saying, just in case. But we do know that there's cults happening that are taking advantage of people's vulnerabilities and grief in the twin flame journey. And it is no joke. And so we did a live, and it's posted on YouTube as we speak right now. Please go on my YouTube channel. It's on the link tree. Just go on my link tree, check it out. I will post this live so that you can share it with, and maybe have a conversation with your kids. Remember this conversation. Start having it with your kids, your teenage kids who are going through change and who are going through evolution and who are experiencing their own, and they have a right to do it without being harassed. And 20-year-old and 30-year-old and 50-year-olds have a right to do it without being harassed. Samson and Delilah, I don't think so. No, because they were lovers. Weren't they lovers, or am I wrong? Was it Samson and Delilah? If I'm correct, was that it? Damn, she was a bitch. But anyway, because we know what happened to Samson. So if that was Samson and Delilah, wow. But anyway, but she was manipulating him. Okay, yeah, but there was a particular story where literally the guy wouldn't go. He wouldn't budge. He didn't want her at all, period. It didn't matter what she looked like. He didn't want her at all. And she basically blew the whistle on him or something like that, where he got in massive trouble. This has happened in this country This has happened all over the world, and it still happens today. And you've got some dark people out there. You know, they really don't know what to do with their money, their time, their power, and they get a kick out of hurting people like that. Yeah, it does. I gotcha. So it's messed up. You would think people would have respect. With the word karma being thrown around for the last, I mean, it's thrown around for hundreds of years, but typically right now, in the last, let's be honest, in the last 30 years, karma, the word karma, karmic, karma, and it's your karma. You would think they'd go, fuck, if I do that to someone, I could get really slammed by the universe. It doesn't occur to them. It's very funny how deviant libidos go apeshit over saying, wow, maybe I should, curb my shit and just let this person alone. And it creates trauma. Believe it or not, that kind of harassment may not become a physical harassment, but it will if a person goes through this again and again and again and again, it creates a sort of trauma where like Andromeda just said, I'm not going to the gym anymore. I'll only go with my twin. Can you imagine? So now she can't even go to the fucking gym for fear of being harassed because of what she looks like. See, so that is fucked up. And I've seen beautiful men faces, beautiful faces, and they're 60 to 100 pounds overweight. And it's not always trauma to the point of, having been abused, if you know what I'm saying. Sometimes it's safer to be covered up. It makes their girlfriends feel safe around them. In other words, to be extraordinarily beautiful sometimes is more of a harassment for people than not. It makes people assume all kinds of shit that's not true about you. It makes people think that they have a right to touch you, to harass you, to desire you in ways. It's weird. It's like, can't you just enjoy? It's weird. It's like, it's as crazy as rubbing up against a tree because it's a beautiful tree. It makes no sense to me. It's like, fuck, they're a beautiful person. Even though, yeah, okay, wow, look, great looking guy. But you don't have to turn around and look, behind you when they walk away. I mean, to me, it's like anything, a beautiful sunset, that's when it's good. But when it turns into something where you're turning something beautiful, a human being, a horse, a cat, a tree, into something and you're sexualizing it, that's when we have problems. And I think that we as a society need to start teaching ourselves to be better human beings and kinder, and realize that maybe our desires isn't going to, it could harm them emotionally, and that right there should cut it off. Right? Any other questions or comments? I love your comments. But people don't believe that you reap what you sow. Well, I hate to say it, but you do. You really reap what you sow. You really do, in this life or the next. And right now, in this particular century, in this particular 20 years I've been watching how karma works as a reader, as a psychic. Yeah, shit's happening on the spot sometimes. A week later, a month later, within the year, you'll see the shit go down. I've had clients come to me and go, what about their karma? I'm like, don't worry about it. You'll see it. It's coming. I just had a client this week, and I said, remember when you asked me that question a year ago? She went, holy shit. I go, yeah, that's how it works. And guess what? You got to see it. Some people will hear about it. You'll hear it through the grapevine. Believe me, karma never misses its mark. Never. It always comes. So you don't have to worry about that. But we want to keep you safe, right? All right, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you for your time. And I will talk to you soon. Namaste. Be